When you want to manifest more joy and love and positive things in your life, but you find yourself being stubborn, being cynical, this is actually a habit. This has been conditioned in you to not allow yourself to feel good, to not trust it, to resist it. Welcome back to the Law of Attraction Tribe podcast. Today, I want to talk about something we all do, whether we realize it or not, just being stubborn. I am definitely a stubborn person, but I want to dive deeper into why. Like, what is making you feel that way, where you're really closing yourself off from receiving good things in your life? You don't feel at a very deep subconscious level that you're worthy of it or that you can trust it. And this topic actually came to me from one of my podcast listeners who said she really wants to manifest all these good things in her life, but she just can't seem to get past her stubbornness and just allow herself to actually receive good things. So let's get into why this is, how you've been programmed by society to actually think this way at a subconscious level. So we're conditioned to focus on problems, to compare ourselves to others. When you want to manifest more joy, more love, more positive things in your life, but you find yourself resisting, you find yourself being stubborn, this is actually a habit that has been conditioned within our society, within you, of not allowing yourself to feel good. Welcome back to the Law of Attraction Tribe podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Keith, and today I want to talk about something we all do, whether we realize it or not, which is being stubborn, okay? And not just in the usual way of resisting change, but in a much deeper way. This is a habit of not allowing yourself to feel good. And this topic actually came to me from one of my podcast listeners who said she really wants to manifest all these good things in her life, but whenever she tries, she just can't seem to get past this stubbornness within her, this feeling of not willing to open herself to receiving these good things. And it's really important to realize that we've all been conditioned to focus on our problems, to compare ourselves to others, to seek validation in a system that thrives on ranking and competition and struggle. We're also conditioned to not say good things about ourselves or about what's coming in our life because, well, that could make you a show off or seem egotistical. I mean, God forbid someone thinks that you're bragging, right? So you resist speaking highly of yourself. And in a lot of cases, you might even resort to self-deprecation just to make sure that no one thinks you're bragging. But it's that resistance of speaking highly of your life and calling positive things in that's the very thing that's keeping you stuck. All right, so let's dive into this a little bit deeper because there's a lot of programming that starts from a very young age. And keep in mind, this is at the subconscious level. So you might not be consciously aware of it, but it's there. There's a layer of it in our society, in everyone. Because from the moment we enter school, we're thrown into this environment where comparison is the norm. Okay, we sit in a classroom surrounded by people our age, and we are immediately measured. We're graded, we're ranked, we're placed into categories, whether outright or kids are very intuitive and pick up on these things. It becomes painfully obvious who the teacher favors, who's considered smart, who's the good kid, and who's the one who struggles, who's the quote unquote bad kid, the troublemaker, right? And we start to sort of fit ourselves into this hierarchy and see where we fall without realizing that we're doing it, without anyone coming out and saying, you're the best kid in the class and you're the worst kid in the class. We put two and two together, okay? And this starts the moment we enter school. And it goes all throughout our 12 years of schooling and then into, our careers or college or whatnot. The thing is, deep down, we all want to be the favorite. We all want to be the top student. But remember, we're not supposed to admit that out loud, right? Because that could seem egotistical. It's, you know what I mean? No one says it out loud, but that's what everyone's yearning for. Everyone just wants to be accepted. Okay? And so what happens is we start to curate this mindset starting in young children where you're just constantly seeking external validation, while at the same time, there's this constant internal struggle. Okay. And the one contradicts the other. So from a very young age, we're taught that, your grades and the way the teacher perceives you, the way your classmates perceive you, kind of creates value. Whether it's right or wrong, like this is how we perceive this. And then it's reinforced over and over and over again. Our worth is determined by numbers, by grades, by approval from our peers and from the authority figures. And there's constant comparison. And I just want you to stop and think. Go back to as far back as you can remember in school. Do you ever remember a time where you were comparing yourself to another classmate, where you felt completely broken and shattered on the inside because you weren't the best student? The teacher looked down upon you. The other classmates didn't want to play with you. Like in any situation, we've all been there. And what seems very harmless as an adult is very important as a child. This is their world. This is their whole world, their view. And it goes into the subconscious mind, especially in the first 7 years of life, to where it can have long-term effects of not being good enough, not being smart, not being worthy of good things. And of course, this is all at the subconscious level. It's not like you're walking around saying, oh, I'm just not good enough. I'm not worthy. You might be completely unaware that this belief is in your subconscious and has been running your life up until this point. So because of this whole conditioning and the way that we go about teaching children, we learn to look for problems. Okay, this is a learned behavior to seek out problems in our life. Okay, to seek out why you're not as good as the student sitting next to you, why you're not the one with the gold star in the classroom, why you're not picked for the team in your PE class, and so on. Okay, so we're constantly conditioned to look for all of these things. And if we don't look for these things, that's okay. Someone's going to point them out to you, right? The teacher's going to point it out. Your parents are going to point it out. The coach is going to point it out and teach you all the things you're doing wrong. Okay, this is negative reinforcement, and it exists in our society. Think about even as an adult. If you're in a normal job where you have a manager, what do you do every year? Or sometimes even more than every year, every quarter. You have a performance review where they point out literally everything you're doing wrong, right? So we are just so conditioned and so reinforced to consistently look for what's not going right. And this is the complete opposite of what we should be doing according to the laws of the universe. And I'm going to get into that in just a second, but it's important to understand that it starts out in such a young age that it becomes part of your subconscious belief system. Okay, so for example, let's say you're a kid and you struggle in math. What happens internally? You start to believe, well, I'm bad at math. I'm just not good at math. I can't do math, right? And then what happens, right? You speak it into existence. The universe is saying, your wish is my command. You're bad at math? Okay, you're going to continue being bad at math. You don't get picked for the sports team that you tried out for. I'm not athletic, or nobody likes me, or I'm just bad at sports. And you affirm that over and over. And then that continues to happen because the universe is saying, your wish is my command. You're not the teacher's favorite. Okay, maybe you were scolded or had to go sit in timeout or whatever. There is this underlying assumption that I'm not good enough and that this teacher's approval is negative, and so my value is less than the other students in the class, right? And here's the thing. Here is why when you have this belief as a child, it turns into a deep-rooted belief system in your subconscious. This happens because of what's called the confirmation bias. The confirmation bias ensures that whatever you're focusing on, you're going to find more of that. Okay, so if you're looking for problems, for reasons why you're not good enough, you're going to find them. And this goes back to all of the episodes I've done about the subconscious and the reticular activating system. We'll call it the RAS, or the brain's filter. When you're constantly focusing on problems, you're tagging that in your brain as important, okay? Because it doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. The universe doesn't care. It is tuning into what you're focusing on. So in any given second, your subconscious has access to 11 billion bits of data. Your conscious mind only can access 50. So how out of the 11 billion does your brain filter out what 50 you're going to consciously process? It has to do with what you're focusing on, what you've tagged as important. Okay, think about it as like hashtags, right? If you're constantly thinking, I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough, I'm not skinny enough, all of these things that we tell ourselves repeatedly, think about that as like a hashtag. So now your brain's filter is searching that hashtag to find all the things in your environment that align with that. And so you see more of it and more of it and more of it. And it becomes in this snowball effect in which you have endless proof that you're not smart, or you're not good enough, or people just don't like you, or you're bad somehow. Okay? It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, truly. So bringing it back into the present day as an adult, okay? You've been so conditioned to struggle that it creates this stubbornness. It kind of hardens you, okay? Your survival mechanism is to protect yourself from all of those feelings. And so you sort of put up this wall, because if you don't open yourself up, then it can't affect you. It can't hurt you, right? You don't want to open yourself up to good because you're always let down, or because when you did that, you were hurt or you were devalued in some way. And so that's where this stubbornness comes. It's a protection mechanism to keep you from feeling those feelings. Because if you don't open yourself up, you can't be hurt. If you don't fall in love, then your heart can't be broken, for example, right? And I want you to do a little exercise with me right here. Think about how often you downplay your successes. Okay, so how often do you brush off a compliment, for example? Somebody tells you, I love your hair, I love that outfit. And you just say like, oh yeah, no, this really, like you play it down, right? Or sometimes you even just say something very like self-deprecating because it's so uncomfortable to open yourself up and receive that compliment. And that's a really good indicator. Are you open to receiving good things? You can ask yourself, are you open to receiving a compliment? How well do you take a compliment? That will tell you very quickly what kind of shield you have in place. Or when things are going well, things are going really good, how often do you wait for the other shoe to drop? Like, oh, I don't want to jinx it. Or like, oh, it's just a matter of time before everything falls apart because nothing ever works out for me, right? It's like that moment where you tell yourself, this is too good to be true. And remember, all of this that you're saying, the universe is saying, your wish is my command. Your wish is my command. Okay, it's too good to be true. Okay, then it's too good to be true. Then we got to throw something in. some wrench in the plan to get you back to your comfort zone, which is the state of focusing on problems. Think about like a friend. Everyone's got the friend who thrives on drama, right? And they constantly have situations coming up that immerses them in drama. Is that by chance? Is that coincidence? No. They're seeking it out. That is their normal. And so their brain is filtering out their environment and seeking out the things that are going to cause drama. Okay. So here is a great book that I'm going to recommend. It's a very short book. It's pretty cheap. You could get it on Amazon. It's called Dollars Flow to Me Easily by Richard Dotz. This book is so eye-opening that I have read it 4 times. And every time I read it, it gets more and more and more like insightful. So I understand it on a deeper level. And basically, what he says is that the key to abundance or joy is allowing yourself to feel good without all of that resistance. Okay. But since most people have this deeply ingrained belief that struggle is necessary, that life is supposed to be hard, that success only comes through suffering, they don't allow themselves to drop the resistance and open themselves up to good things happening. So what he says in the book is to clear the mental clutter of all of the problems, all of the worries that are going on in your mind and in your life, and to get to this place of neutrality. And the first thing he says is you're probably going to have resistance. So he uses the example of money because it's a very tangible example where he says, if I tell you to clear your mind of the fact that you can't pay your bills, that you might lose your apartment or your house because you can't make the mortgage payment or the rent payment, the first piece of resistance is, well, that's not responsible. You can't just forget about your problems and they're just going to disappear. And then these other beliefs come in, like life is hard, being an adult sucks. I mean, how many times have we heard that? I remember my 7th grade history teacher ingraining it in us that life is hard, get used to it. She was so not just hard on us, she was like mean. She was a nasty, nasty old woman. And she would justify it by saying, well, life is hard and you better learn it now. Like, I'm toughening you up for the real world. And I think we've all had experiences like that. So subconsciously, these are the layers of resistance that are coming up when you're trying to manifest good things in your life. And the truth is that when you drop the struggle and you let go of all of these perceived immediate problems, you go to this place of what he calls, what Richard Dotz calls the universal good, universal goodness. It's where your baseline as a soul, as a human being, is to feel good. It's to feel good consistently. Not just when something good happens to you, but just this baseline state of being where you automatically feel good. Okay? And so that sounds great, but it also sounds like something that's easier said than done. How do you just forget about your problems? How do you just allow yourself to feel good when your whole life you've focused on the negative? Your whole life you've been struggling. Your whole life bad things have happened to you one after the other. Okay? So to start, you have to rewire your brain to focus on solutions or to seek out to create a hashtag of the good instead of the problem. So think about when I said what you're focusing on is like giving your brain's filter a hashtag to search. Okay. Instead of that hashtag being I'm broke, have that hashtag be something that gives gratitude for money. Okay. So you could think about how you have a steady paycheck, or all of the things that money has bought you throughout your life, or the fact that you have enough food to eat or a roof over your head. There's always something to think about that you can be grateful for. And the more you do it, the more you create this new neural pathway. You're training your brain to seek out things to be grateful for instead of seeking out the problems. Okay. And this isn't just like, I'm going to write in my journal once a day and say what I'm grateful for. That's a great start, but it's really making it a part of your everyday life so that instead of letting your brain default to what's lacking, you create this habit of finding what's abundant in your life. Okay. And so a great way to train yourself, this is what I did, and it's so effective. I literally do this every single January, is read the book The Magic by Rhonda Byrne. It is so good. It's a month-long process that helps you train your brain to look for the gratitude in life, and you will shift your vibrational frequency so much. It's insane. I also have a gratitude challenge in the Manifest It Now app that goes through all of the daily practices that make gratitude second nature. We use the book The Magic as the reading material to go along with it. So that's something that really helped me, and I need it every year because I'll start to default, and it just helps me train that filter in my brain to stop looking for the shit and start looking for like the gold, right? The other piece, the next step is just becoming aware, just bringing awareness to your focus. Okay, you might think like, "Oh, I'm aware." Oh, our subconscious is in control 95% of the time. And if you don't consciously make the effort to pay attention to what you're focusing on, you're going to go on autopilot and you're going to focus on the default. You're going to focus on what you've always focused on or what people around you are focusing on, which a lot of times can be negative. And so when you just simply bring awareness to the present moment, it will shift you out of autopilot and put you in the driver's seat of your life. So you can actually take control of the vehicle and make a conscious effort to focus on things that are positive, like gratitude. The two go hand in hand. So awareness and gratitude, they're two very simple things, but they make a complete difference in your life if you focus on it enough to make it a habit to then make it second nature or part of your everyday. The third thing is setting a timer for just 15 minutes per day and tell yourself during that 15 minutes, you are not allowed to think about any problems. Okay, so if a problem comes up during those 15 minutes, you just say, nope, I'm not going to focus on that. I'm not feeding into it and giving it my attention. I'm going to shift and think about something I'm grateful for. Okay, for just 15 minutes. So after the 15 minutes is done, you could tell yourself, like, I can go back to worrying about whatever I need to worry about. But just give yourself that break for 15 minutes. And what this is going to do is it's going to help you get comfortable with feeling good. Because like Richard Dott says, it is your default. It is what your natural state is. Joe Dispenza calls it the void. But when you get quiet, when you quiet all the mental chatter of all of your problems and you just get comfortable just being, just simply being, allowing yourself to just be, you get to this place of neutrality, but it feels good. It's the universal good that Richard Dott talks about. And it sounds so simple, but this is the hardest part for most people, including myself. You tell me to sit quiet for 15 minutes. I'm like, excuse me, who are you talking to? I can't sit still for 2 minutes. So something that's been really helpful for me is to go outside in nature, whether you're walking around outside, just going for a walk, or step in the grass barefoot. It's a great way to sort of like recharge your battery because your body's literally filling with electrons. But just being outside, I find it so much easier to sort of calibrate to this vibrational frequency because it's part of nature. So when you're outside, you're surrounded by it. You're surrounded by this feeling of good if you just can quiet your mind enough to notice it and to start to tune into it. So for me, being outside, whether I'm sitting still or walking, it's so much easier than trying to sit inside and get to that place. It's like you just automatically go to that place when you're surrounded by nature. And this is where the stubbornness will get the loudest, like the resistance will get the loudest because you're not used to feeling that. And remember, the subconscious does not like change. It wants to keep you safe in your comfort zone. And so any change, you're going to feel resistance. And so that's what's going to happen. In the beginning, it's going to feel really hard. You're going to just constantly, the problems are going to pop up left and right. And that's where if you shift your attention and you just think of something you're grateful for, or you shift your attention to the present moment. What can I see? What can I hear? What can I smell? This will start to train you to drop the problem, let go of the struggle, and just simply be. So I think the other thing that this listener had said when she sent me this question was that, she wants to feel happy, but she's felt so unhappy for so long. And like, how do you let go of all of the horrible things that happened in your life and just be happy? But here's the thing, when you let go and you just quiet the mental chatter, your true nature will calibrate to joy, to feeling good. And here's the thing, you don't have to try. And I think this is where the stubbornness comes in, is we think like, I have to be this happy-go-lucky, perky person. No, you absolutely don't. You don't have to try to feel happy. You don't have to try to feel positive. You don't have to do anything. It's literally letting go of any doing and just getting to this state of being. Okay. It's when you think about it, like think about a newborn baby. Okay. They're all vibrating in this beautiful frequency of joy, of love. That is our default. Okay. We learn to go out of that by constantly searching for problems in our life. But that's why when you drop the problems, you shift your focus from the problems and you just go to this place of being, you go back into that mode. It is your default. So it's really not about doing anything. It's not about trying. It's not about hard work. It's about letting go of all of that and just allowing yourself to naturally go to your default state. It's doing nothing. Doing nothing, just allowing yourself to simply be. And when's the last time you allowed yourself to be? To just be, to just sit for 15 minutes without worrying that you have to do the dishes or finish a work project or all the other things on your to-do list. When's the last time you just allowed yourself to be still? Probably not anytime recently, right? Like, how often do we do this? We're so distracted and so busy nowadays. But that's why I say set a timer for 15 minutes. When that timer's up, you can worry about the dishes or the projects or whatever else. Just for 15 minutes, give yourself this little gift to just sit and be. And as you do this little by little, you'll get to that place, that pure place of feeling good, of tapping into joy. And the more you do this, you'll start to see the more good things will happen. It's not going to be instant. Most likely, it's not going to happen the same day. But if you consistently do this, you'll start to get these little things that will line you up for more good things to happen because you're calibrating your vibrational energy to that of joy. And instead of brushing it off or saying, oh, that's great, but you're going to say, this is my new normal. This is my new normal. This is what I have calibrated my vibrational frequency to, and this is just normal now. And then it'll become normal. Okay, so I just want to recap everything that I talked about. So you don't have to try. You don't have to try to turn yourself into this happy-go-lucky person. You're simply allowing the problems to fall out of your mind. You're letting go of them and going to this neutral place. This place naturally feels good. It is your baseline. And you're just simply becoming reacquainted with it. And you do this by becoming consciously aware of what you're focusing on. And you start to train your brain to focus on more good by finding gratitude every day in every situation. You're going to train your mind to do that. And you're setting a timer for 15 minutes. And during that time, you're not allowed to think about any of your problems. Again, this is training your brain to get comfortable with this neutral state. If you can do this for a month, I guarantee your life is going to look completely different. And that stubbornness will fall away. And good things will happen little by little to get you comfortable with the idea of opening yourself up to it. Okay, so this ultimate, manifestation hack, it's nothing that you have to do. It's all about your state of being. It's doing less and becoming more aware, more grateful, more intentional, more quiet within. So today, I would say starting today, right now, if you can, I challenge you to set your timer for 15 minutes. Let go of the stubbornness, the problems, the struggle. Let go of this habit of not allowing the good to come in. And just go to this place of neutrality. And when you do, everything else, whether it's money or love or success, it's all going to start flowing to you effortlessly without you having to do anything. Because again, it's not about doing, it's about being. Okay, so if this resonated with you, screenshot it, share it on Instagram, and tag me at Law of Attraction Tribe so I can share it, send it to someone who you think might benefit from hearing it. And I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in.